Shokana Yetu. And I first, of course, would like to say welcome to Lesson 403 and to extend my continued appreciation for all who not only participate in the lessons and questions themselves, but also who participate in the purpose of the frequency as a whole. See, I designed the frequency with having in mind a place that we all could come to as Bakongo Beto and learn about our people. Not only about our people, but from the minds and from the mouths of our people. See, when we learn from an Afrocentric, as they call it, way of thinking, but I would prefer to say an African-centered consciousness, then therefore we start to rebuild what was damaged and destroyed in our now Western and European dominated consciousness. So the frequency is a place to learn about us. It is a place to build a foundation about us and by the hands of us and by the knowledge and the research of us. And this has all been left by our Ndugu Ubukulu, which means our ancient families, and our Umyolo, our ancient ancestors. So what we're doing is we're trying to reconnect within ourselves a sense of ourselves in the effort to build a culture to help advance our people. And specifically, Lesson Series 400, dealing with languages of our people, is extremely important because a lot of people don't realize and understand the importance of language in the passing of cultures and traditions. See, language, according to Eric Fromm in his book, Beyond the Chains of Illusion, I like the analysis he put here. He said language passes the psychology and the philosophy of a people from one generation to the next. But the problem is when a people have become conquered, they oftentimes have to assume the language of the conqueror. So therefore, not only do they assume the language of the conqueror, but they assume the mentality and the philosophy of the conqueror. Now, even when you have the Creole languages that are intermixed with the conqueror's languages, oftentimes it's still the conqueror's mentality that dominates the people that have been conquered. And as children of the Ma'afa, as you know, especially in the United States of America, we have lost every inch of our culture that we have ever had in the land of Kukongo. We have lost our connection. And it's sad because our people, oftentimes, when I call our people Bakongo, and if I call my people Mukongo, see, if I call myself a Mukongo, and I call my people Africans, they look at me almost with a face of disdain and almost a hatred, saying, don't call me an African. You know, I'm not a ooga booga and all of that kind of stuff. And it's the saddest thing in the world. And see, this is so important. Language is so important because when I mention the great Shango, when I mention the all-powerful Olodumare, when I mention the great Nkulu and give all praise to the great Ra, my own black African people look at me like I have lost my everlasting mind. And then when the perplexity falls off of their faces, the first thing that comes out of the mouth is, I don't know about them other gods. You can keep them idol gods. Just give me Jesus. And then I come right back to him and say, well, my brother or my sister, I need you to do me just one favor. Name me one black African person named Jesus. And then they come around and say, well, his name really wasn't Jesus. His name was Yeshua, or his name was Yahshua, or more properly pronounced, his name was Yahweh. And then I say, well, name me one African person named those names. You understand? You see, you will sit here and praise a white Jesus and at the same time denigrate your own black African people. You sit here and fall for this myth about multiculturalism. You sit here, fight tooth and nail, how we're all of the same human race. We all of the same family. I don't see color. We all bleed red. That stuff happened a long time ago. It's a new day now. Can't we all get along? While you fall for this mess, you want to stand shoulder to shoulder and side by side with every people of this earth except your own Bakongo people in Kukongo. It is the strangest and most amazing thing I have ever seen. Because that specifically is what our psychology has come to. The fact that we can look at people who look just like us and say that they are not just like us. It's horrible. We can look at people in the United States, those of us who speak English, and we can look at our brothers and our sisters and some of our mothers and fathers who live in the lands of Haiti, now Dominican and Haiti. We can look at these lands of Brazil, and they speak different languages. They speak Spanish and Portuguese and French. And we say we're not related to them because they speak these different languages. So that is a proof of how the language can not only separate people, but if we reverse the process to show the root of us, it can also possibly reunite our people. You see, because when we look at it, that is the problem within us, the unity. So this is the importance of Lesson Series 400 to show that we have had our culture snatched, taken, stolen, and hidden from us for the purpose of another. And our people, our ancient people, our Myolo, have left these things for us to uncover for ourselves because they knew that we would need it later on in life. So we must continue the work that they started for us and do it proudly. So with that mouthful said, I would like to first, before I jump too deeply into lesson 403, I would like to go back to a couple of topics and points in 402 and kind of expound on some things that I found as new information because, you know, I'm always on my grind as far as research is concerned. I never stop studying. So when I find new information, you get it the way I find it. Now, if you recall from 402, I explained the word Tanga being the proper pronunciation of the word Tanakh. And I also showed the origin of this word coming from the Kibantu Congo word Tana or Ntangu. And that means light source. It means sunlight and whatnot. So I found information that can further prove what I was trying to state in that lesson and continue through the series 400, showing how Hebrew and ancient Kikuma were, of course, pure Kikongo languages. In the Yoruba language, the word Tana or Tangu, as you remember from Adonai, would be pronounced Etana and is spelled Itaana. And it has the exact same definition, sunlight, as it does in the other Bantu languages and also in the word Adonai. So now we go to when I spoke again about the Tanga, that word deagglutinated in two words has that word in which you say in ancient Kikuma as Unk. You say it's the Unk. And we all know what the Unk is, the cross with the loop. However, that's not the pronunciation of that word. The pronunciation properly in the Kibantu Congo languages would be Anga. Okay. And then in the Hebrew language, we have a word Anga, and it is spelled Nun Gimel Hey. And Nun Gimel Hey, again, it would be the Egyptian equivalent of what you say is Unk, because both are also pronounced the same. So what does that mean? Why is that so important, and how is there a connection? Well, if you recall from the paintings and you recall from the statues and all of the depictions of who I said my favorite king was, Mtana Gakona or Ghana Tangu, you can see Itana or Tangu in the sky with the rays coming down with hands holding on to the Anga. And it represented the fact that the light shining from Itana shines on all of us. Okay, so you see Mtana Gakona, you see him standing in front of his wife Mfura Titi, and they are receiving the rays of sunlight. So this word in Hebrew means brilliance and radiance, and it's specifically describing sunlight. So as you can see even further, those words translate the Hebrew language, translates back into its original Kibantu Congo language. Okay, so that's just a little annex to lesson 402. And now we'll go ahead and jump into 403. Now, if you recall in the first lesson of this series, 401, I said that we will later get into the proper pronunciations, concepts, and meanings of two of the most prominent, as you call, deities, gods, but they were in short a while, of the Nile Valley were BES and PTAH. Now, I wanted you to remember why it was so important that BES and PTAH were considered prominent deities and powerful figures, and while also PTAH was considered the creator of all things. Okay? Now, keep in mind, I want you to see the note of the stature of these two depictions of these two Inchora. And then the statue of BES, as you call him, I want you to notice in his face. He has a short, stocky body, but his face is in the face of a feline, specifically a lion. Now, these are very important things, and I will explain as I go along. Now, we will start first with who you call BES.